Hey, welcome back everyone. Rob here from Ram Studio Comics. So in today's video, I'll be drawing Spidey, and this is all done in the Procreate app from start to finish. So without further ado, let's jump in and talk about the process. So like anything else, I start off very rough, very loose, trying to just scribble out some ideas, general proportions. And what I figured I would talk about to you today through the process of this one is that I really have been avoiding backgrounds again, so it's a very bad habit. And even in this, I naturally went to a large shot of Spidey, and then some smaller buildings lower in the background. I think that still would have worked, but I ultimately decided against it because as I was looking at it, I knew that basically I was doing what I tend to be doing, and that's having more fun with the character and totally avoiding the background. And I really want to fight that urge, and so I did in this particular one. And I just want to stress that it's one of those things where like you avoid what you don't think you're as good at, and also what you enjoy the least in the illustration. I find myself doing that quite a bit. I recommend going against the grain and really fighting that natural urge to just draw what you like. There's times when it's fine, you draw what you like, and that usually comes out to be your best work. But at the same time, you have to challenge yourself. So the beauty of using Procreate, obviously, is that it has these great perspective tools. I was able to draw out a rough sketch of the background, align the perspective grid, and then it becomes a lot easier. And then I do a lot of little tricks where I'll do a set of windows, and you can probably see how they look like they snapped into place. Really what I did there is I cheated. I made a set of windows, and then I copied and pasted them all the way down, and I'll do that as many times as I can to take advantage of repetitive tasks. I know it's a little bit of cheating, but at the same time, it's at least I'm still drawing the background. I guess in my mind, cheating would be like, well, if there is any cheating at all, but because a lot of people tell you this isn't cheating either, but like to throw a background in place and trace it, that's not cheating either. I don't want to say that, but for me, I don't like doing it. I've tried it. In fact, I've watched people do it, and they change it enough to where it's creative and beautiful and wonderful, and it's their art because they changed it. They just used the background as a template. And I remember back in the day, I saw a Todd McFarlane cover where he literally took a city of New York and just threw it in the background. I think it was it had to be New York, right? Threw it in the background and just put a filter on it. And I was like, whoa, even the great Todd McFarlane cheats. But that's not really what it is, right? It's not really cheating. Some see it as that, but you just have to change it enough where it's your own. That being said, I can't do it and feel comfortable about it. So maybe it is cheating for me. Like I can't wrap my head around it, and I never seem to change it enough where I feel good about it. So at any rate, I do draw my own backgrounds, but then I do take little shortcuts when I can with digital tools, the perspective tools being one, which, we're still going to use rulers and stuff for that, so I don't see that as too big of a deal, but I copy and paste where I can. And the main thing, though, in this particular one is that I forced myself to go head first into it and do it. And really the neat thing here that I'm pretty happy about is I completed this entire piece, drawn, inked, whatever, digital inks, in 10 hours. So for me, that's really good. Like I could easily spend 15, 20 hours on a piece like this. Even though it's just one character, it's more of a detailed background. But what I found is that if I jump to ink sooner, and really should anyways, like digitally, there's no reason to not jump into ink sooner. You will get better at editing your inks and using the pen as an eraser, the same pen tip. I'll use the same pen tip that I draw with, one of my ink brushes. You can get it on my Procreate set, and I'll make sure it's linked in the description box below. But I just use those same ink pens and I cut back and forth, and that's really it. And I also use a lot more sampling the white of the canvas and drawing back and forth, because when you're done, you can really just merge it together and set it to a multiply layer and color beneath it. It doesn't matter. So either way, you want to do that. But the perspective tools obviously make it a lot easier. See right there, I'm copying and pasting those windows, and it makes it go a lot faster. Now, the only drawback that I noticed with this as well is that you got to be careful that because you're doing that, you don't just say, well, I'm going to do all these buildings the same and I'm going to repeat every window. Because if you really study buildings, you can see they're a lot more interesting than what I have here. I took some basic approaches and shortcuts, and they're kind of boring. That's fine. It's better. I guess what I was focusing on this one is just making sure I did it. I didn't not do it. I didn't avoid it. But now, after I get used to not avoiding these backgrounds in every shot or majority of the shots, then I need to experiment and learn how to make them more interesting, more insets, more recesses, more A-frames, more gothic, more, all that stuff. I need to incorporate all that. Obviously I wouldn't use gothic here for Spidey. He's not in that type of setting generally, but somebody like Batman, you would go for more gothic architecture and Victorian, stuff like that. So at any rate, again, some tips on how to get through this. So the main thing is when you feel yourself avoiding it, just start dropping in shapes and forms and at least experiment. Allow yourself to think basic about it at first, just get something in there. The other thing that I think helped with this particular one, and I don't generally do this, is I dropped in a lot more black. So I was trying to go for almost a 40 to 50% black, ink work, whatever you want to look at, light to dark. And mainly I was thinking of that almost immediately for the buildings. I was like, maybe if I start dropping in more shadows for these buildings, I'll get done sooner. Like one of the things I notice in a lot of the comics that I pay attention to and some of the books about illustrating comics is they'll literally draw like one side of the building and then the other side will be almost void of any information, or they'll do like really dark ink work on the side and just some cross hatching or some, it's like some people will detail the buildings only on one side and less on the other. And I didn't do that here, obviously, but I definitely took advantage of blocking in more black on the one side, which simplifies the forms. Now, I always avoided that because I thought, well, what if it's a lighter shot in the scene? You want to leave more open area. It looks pretty cool to color that stuff that way. But I'll tell you, I actually feel like it made it faster. So looking at it like where can you really utilize those black inks, those large pools of black, and simplify things and make things easier on yourself. So there's that. And there's all sorts of techniques. It's like I'm just figuring this stuff out as I go. But one of the other things I wanted to make sure to mention in this video is I know you see a lot of stuff on the channel where I'm back and forth from using Procreate, drawing on paper, using Clip Studio Paint. And I ultimately decided on this particular one that it's not so much there's a right tool for your art as much as, at least for me anyways, and you can see if this relates well to you, is that there's a right tool for, say, a way of production. So for me, what I've found is that for my finished comic work, me working inside of Procreate gives me the best final result, quickest and most expedited final result overall. So for me to draw ink and color or even draw in ink, it's better that I just work in the software. Probably even better that I just record everything in the software. So, and I've mentioned that before. It's just nice because of the recording features and then tying into the computer and even doing a screen grab, it's just a lot easier. But then as far as just penciling, like if I just want to pencil a piece and I want to take it to a show and sell some fan art or whatever, it's then it's just traditional, okay? But I seem to notice when I try to get from that point to something inked, maybe I can pencil it on paper, then ink it digitally, but really just for time and getting it done, this seems to be my best approach. So yeah, I keep finding myself being pulled back into just wanting to create on the iPad Pro because it's just some, I don't know, it's something about it. It's faster and more portable. And I even got this little stand, and I'll make sure to link in the description box below. I did a post on Instagram if you want to check it out. It's actually really cool. It's made by Boyata, and I'll use an Amazon affiliate link, but whatever, just Google Boyata, you can find it yourself. But basically it's just I got it for a book stand for putting my books that I'm studying as I'm drawing, holding them up, right? And it's actually a laptop stand, so this is so great, mixed up here as I usually am. But I ended up realizing it made a perfect stand for my iPad Pro so that I'm not hunched over my table and drawing, and I can set it up and draw like I'm on an easel or on my art table without having to use my big bulky art table. really cool. It works really well. So I recommend, go look at that post if you want, so you can see what I'm talking about. You'll see I was drawing a picture of Batman in that one and showing the post, but just for my fellow iPad Pro users. But I got to come back to it and say that overall, the effect that you can get and the speed and what you can create, and also the fact that it keeps track of the time that you spend on the art, all those features just really add up and make this one of my favorite ways to create comic art. Yeah, so it is what it is. But in this particular one, as far as looking back retrospectively, now that it's done or almost done here, is that basically I learned a lot about, stop avoiding backgrounds. It's just a bad habit. Jump in, go for it, keep making iterations and changes. But ultimately, if you don't think you can do something as well, simplify it. Do it in a more simple way. You'll get more advanced later. Don't sit there in frustration trying to be something you're not and draw something that you can't draw right now. You'll get better over time. But the main thing is you don't avoid the things that make for a better picture. Composition, backgrounds, more dynamic posing, foreshortening, all those things. Just jump in and do them, and you get better, each time you complete a piece. So anyways, hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. I'd love to know what you think and what else you'd like to see on the channel. I'm always interested to hear that. I really appreciate you tuning in and watching. More content on the way very soon. So as always, keep drawing, keep having fun, and bye for now.